Here's my transformation distribution matrix. When you're in the quantitative accumulation stage, it's you versus yourself. And that's the paradox. To improve quality, you need to be focusing on quantity. And once you have quality, you need to then go back to quantity of distribution channels in order to grow online. Why creating content consistently is actually a trap.
There are two rules when it comes to content creation. One is that you have to provide high quality content, things that provide value, things that are interesting, things that are just not mediocre like everything else out there. You have to stand out. The other thing is that you have to post consistently. It doesn't matter which platform you're on. You have to be there, you have to show up, you have to engage.
Sounds like very reasonable rules, but actually this is what's holding people back because the two are on opposite spectrums of the creation process. Plus, it completely ignores one fundamental key area that you need in order to grow online. And I'll talk about this later in the video. But first, let's talk about why it's a trap to post good content consistently. We'll reframe it in different words in order to make it obvious. If we say we want to post consistently, it's about quantity. If we want good content, it's about quality. So essentially, we're saying we need to prioritize both quantity and quality. In theory, that sounds great. That's what we should all be striving for, right? Both quality and quantity. But in reality, this actually goes against the law of quantitative and qualitative change. That in order to see qualitative change, a substantial change in something, we need to first see quantitative accumulation. In other words, in order to improve your quality, you need to focus on quantity. That's the paradox of quality and quantity. When someone says quality over quantity, it's easier said than done. You need to repeat, you need to practice over time in order to see the quality of your work change. You can't just improve quality by thinking, okay, I'm gonna focus on quality. It doesn't work that way. What does that mean? That means we need to understand where we are on the quantitative to qualitative change spectrum and then prioritize our time, which is completely finite, towards what we need to be focusing on right now. Let's take an example to make this concrete. Say you started a blog about the best Japanese food in your city. You take photos, you go to these places, you write about it. You know, your family and friends are very supportive, but no one else is reading. No one else gives a crap. That's really normal, right? At the beginning, we all suck. It's about managing your expectations based on where you are. If you're still in that quantitative accumulation stage, it's silly to expect,
oh, tomorrow I might just blow up.
If you're serious about building a brand online, but you haven't done the work towards it yet, then don't expect people to like everything you put out immediately. Instead, focus your time and effort towards getting better and better so you reach that threshold and see a qualitative transformation in your work. Now, if you've been doing your thing for some time, then it's about shifting the focus away from that quantity towards quality. But I want to introduce that one more key thing that is required to grow online. I'll use myself as an example. For the past 10 years, all I've been doing is focusing on persuasion and communication, starting from IR and in law school, then adding the business aspect to it in management consulting, where it's about formulating, communicating business strategies and trying to get clients to actually implement them. It was a lot of quantitative accumulation over the 10 years. I've seen some qualitative transformations throughout, validated by the people around me, but I want to test it with the bigger audience out there. When you go outside of your immediate circle, the power law comes into play. This means that the top 5% of content out there is going to receive disproportionate amount of attention compared to the bottom 5%. The top 5% of content, let's say on YouTube, receives millions, if not billions of views, while the bottom 5% receives a lot closer to zero attention. And this is where the focus moves from quantity to quality, because if you're not there in that top 5%, you're going to be doing a lot of work for nothing. But that's not the whole story at all. And here I want to talk about the one thing that was missing from this post good content consistently doctrine. And that is, it focuses only on content creation and not content distribution. Here's my transformation distribution matrix. When you're in the quantitative accumulation stage, it's you versus yourself. Using a very crude example, it's like you're at the kindergartner stage where your art is just scribble. And distribution means the audience that will love it. It's mostly people who like you and by extension like your scribble. So it's your parents putting the art on the fridge. But once you hit that qualitative transformation threshold, you now have work that is not something everyone can produce. You are starting to see your differentiation. And here, distribution becomes key. It's like a multiplier of your effort. Let's stick with the art example, right? You moved from kindergarten scribbles to now, let's say, young Picasso portrait level. You've leveled up. And if you still just share it with your family and friends, you're going to get some good word of mouth. But if you then shared the same thing on TikTok, all of a sudden you have reach for the entire world out there. Now, let's say you took the TikTok video, expanded it into a YouTube tutorial for others to draw your young Picasso portraits. Then all of a sudden you have access not only to people around the world, you'll be found for years to come if you did the SEO right. So combining with distribution, then let's talk about the things you want to do when you are already seeing some qualitative transformations. One, you want to shift your focus from just putting in the time to reflecting on the quality and really capture that power law in order to get infinite more leverage on the amount of eyeballs that see your quality work. And two, you want to start testing different distribution channels in order to find the right audience for your content. I'll give you an example of how I did this for one of my recent videos on business ideas inspired from Japanese startups. Since I spent a good chunk of my management consulting career in Tokyo, I know there's a lot of international interest in Japanese innovation, in Japanese businesses, so I turned it into a YouTube video. Now I know that the way YouTube algorithm works, it takes some time for them to figure out whether they like my video or not. While YouTube is working in the background, I took the same content, repurposed it for an entrepreneur community I'm a part of called Trends. So in there, people are actively looking for market opportunities, business ideas, and within a day, it was picked up by the Trends newsletter and then sent out to more people who hasn't seen it before. Now, validated by Trends and HubSpot, I'm going to take the same content and push it out onto Medium to see if I can reach any other audiences out there that's perfect for me. In other words, the game changes from quantity of content pieces while you try to get to that qualitative transformation to now it's quantity of audience groups that you can reach with the same quality content. And that's the paradox. To improve quality, you need to be focusing on quantity. And once you have quality, you need to then go back to quantity of distribution channels in order to grow online. So depending on where you are on the quantitative to qualitative journey, find out what you need to focus on and don't get discouraged. And if you found this helpful, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.